Hey, what's up, AP World? We have a video for you today on the presidency of Lyndon B. Johnson, one of the more important presidents of the 20th century. And he has absolutely appeared on APUSH exams in the past, both in the form of multiple choice questions and essays. So be familiar with this dude. All right, a little background on LBJ. He was a former senator from Texas. He was also 6 feet 4 inches tall, so a very tall dude, tied for the tallest president ever. He was chosen as JFK's running mate in 1960. He was done so deliberately. JFK wanted to kind of balance the ticket with somebody from the South. JFK was from the North in Massachusetts. He became president on November 22nd, 1963. You see him being sworn in here on Air Force One. And that is the day that JFK was assassinated. He was very liberal as a president, and he believed that the federal government could positively impact Americans. And we'll see this through different programs that he did. And he was known for giving the Johnson treatment. Take a look at him. Notice this space. Check out all this space in this room over here. Lots of space. Oh, there's Thomas Jefferson. And here is President Johnson getting in the face of an individual. He would talk to them about 6 inches from them to try to persuade them. So he was absolutely positively known for intimidating people and trying to get his way through the Johnson treatment. You should try to give the Johnson treatment to people sometime and figure out if it works. Sometimes I've been known to give the Johnson treatment, especially to my dogs. That's my dog Pugsley. I give him the Johnson treatment. All right, you may have heard him in the background, like right now, because he and my other dog like to fight. And there they go. So let's go to the election of 1964. Well, this is a year after LBJ is sworn in as president, and he runs for re-election. I do have a video on this, goes into detail. You get to see this little girl get nuked because she doesn't know how to count properly. And LBJ is going against Barry Goldwater, a very conservative senator. And LBJ wins by a landslide. You can see here that LBJ wins all except for 6 states. So he absolutely destroys Barry Goldwater in the election of 1964. LBJ's domestic program was known as the Great Society, and this focused on domestic programs including civil rights, poverty, and education. I also have a video on the Great Society. Check the description below for a link. And this built on the ideas and programs laid forth from the New Deal. So it's essentially an extenuation of the New Deal plus civil rights. Some examples of programs that you should be familiar with is Medicare, and here is LBJ signing Medicare into law. And to his left, your right, who is this guy? President Harry S. Truman. By the way, what was Harry Truman's middle name? Just the letter S. He did not have a middle name. And this was medical assistance and insurance for elderly Americans. He also passed into law Medicaid, which was health care for lower income families and individuals, and the Food Stamp Act as well, which provides food assistance for low income individuals and families. So these are just a few of the examples of the Great Society. LBJ made significant strides in civil rights for African Americans. Laws that were passed during his administration helped right the wrongs of Reconstruction. So still some things that weren't settled during Reconstruction were finally put to an end under LBJ's administration. An example, the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Here is LBJ signing that, and over his left shoulder we see Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. there. This guaranteed equal access to public accommodations. All public accommodations had to have equal access. And the government could also cut off funds where discrimination occurred and cut off funds to states. And Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 declared that discrimination in workplaces is illegal. So this is a huge, huge milestone for African Americans. The 24th Amendment is also added to the Constitution during his administration, and this made poll taxes illegal, but he's still not done yet. We have the Voting Rights Act of 1965, another milestone, which allowed the federal government to register voters. That also eliminated literacy tests for voting. So 2 major wrongs that happened during Reconstruction, literacy tests and poll taxes, are finally eliminated under LBJ's administration. It's my dog Bailey. She thinks she's a lab and she's a little pug. She likes to play catch. Okay, so let's go to the Vietnam War. I do have a separate video on the Vietnam War. Where do you think you'll find it? In the link below, in the description below. We have the domino theory. This is going to plague many administrations. and it will be applied to different areas. In this case, it's Vietnam. So it's this thinking that if Vietnam became communist, surrounding countries will also become communist. You absolutely positively need to know the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. One of the most powerful pieces of legislation in the 20th century, which drastically increases the power of the presidency. So here's the deal. The U.S. is in this area at the Gulf of Tonkin near Vietnam. Some American ships were there. The U.S. alleges that those American ships were attacked by the North Vietnamese. It's still kind of murky. Nobody really knows what happened. Here's the Gulf of Tonkin, and that's where the ships were. Different accounts. There are different accounts of what happened. It seemed to be kind of a foggy day, a hazy day. Couldn't really see very well. There definitely was an exchange of fire between the Americans and the North Vietnamese, but there's conflicting accounts as to why it happened. So in response to this, Congress passes the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, which allowed the president to do anything necessary to prevent future attacks. So what is the impact of this resolution? It drastically increases the power of the president. The president is now essentially given a lot of the war-making powers that are designated to Congress and are given to the president. And Johnson, as a result of this, escalates U.S. involvement in Vietnam. You'll probably hear this, that Congress essentially gave Johnson a blank check to do whatever he wanted. So he has the full right to do anything in Vietnam after this, and this is where U.S. troops drastically increase in Vietnam. And the average age of the draftees and volunteers for Vietnam was 19 years old. That's very, very young, and many of them were minorities and lower class. You see a disproportionate number of African Americans serving in the Vietnam War. And as a result of this, the Vietnam War, the longer it drags on, it goes on beyond LBJ's administration. You'll see protests mount all over the country. And a very famous chant that you would hear is, "Hey, hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today?" People would chant that over his involvement in Vietnam. A really tumultuous time in United States history. Let's go to the year 1968. Lots of stuff happens. You look soon for a video on the year 1968. We have the Tet Offensive, which occurs on January 30th of 1968. This is part of the Vietnam War. North Vietnam launched a surprise attack on the Vietnamese New Year, which is the Tet holiday. It's a surprise attack on the South and America. From this moment forward, and public opinion for the support of the war goes down immensely. People now are starting to see this Vietnam War as an unwinnable war. And Johnson declares that he will not run for re-election in 1968, which will pave the way for two new candidates. All right, so let's talk about analysis of the LBJ administration. What's good about it? What's bad about it? Well, some positives. You absolutely have to talk about civil rights for African Americans and minorities. There's aid for elderly and the poor. There's absolutely aid for education. During the Great Society, you'll see billions of dollars being spent on elementary and secondary schools. And there's an increased government involvement in the lives of individuals. Now, you could also say that's a negative depending on where you stand, but that could be a positive, that now the government is getting involved in potentially a positive way. Some of the negatives, well, you have the escalation in Vietnam, the Gulf of Tonkin, the federal spending drastically increased. And one thing you'll see under LBJ's administration is that he's trying to have money for the Great Society and he's trying to have money for the Vietnam War. And often, and those two really can't coexist. So much money is being spent on each, and in the 1970s, we'll see rampant inflation occur. The Vietnam War took money from the Great Society and vice versa, and of course you have American deaths in Vietnam. And also, if you don't think that increased government involvement is good, you can argue that that is a negative. All right, we'll finish up with some test tips, some essay topics. How effective was LBJ's administration? Again, kind of go back to that analysis we just did. How did society change as a result of his administration? Drastically it did. His administration saw society and the power of the government change perhaps just as much, if not more so, as any other president. Some tips for the multiple choice question. I'm going to beat this in your head. You have to know the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. This appears quite often on released exams. Definitely be familiar with the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, and the 24th Amendment as well. And good luck on any and all tests you'll take, especially the one in May. All right, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope this video was helpful. Please take a moment and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. Help me spread the word. If you like this video, hit the like button for me, please. And, listen to Johnson. You don't want to get the Johnson treatment. This guy got it because he did not subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Thank you for watching and have a good day, guys.